Day 3. Hunger becomes a physical alarm. He's burning about 4,000 calories a day, just staying warm. He's taken in none. His body starts eating muscle for fuel. He decides, tomorrow, he'll surrender. The Luftwaffe tends to treat captured pilots better than the Wehrmacht or the SS. Aviators carry a code respect for fellow flyers. Carr has friends who survived Stalag Luft 3. They call it dull, but livable. 3 meals, Red Cross packages, letters, better than dying in a Czechoslovak forest. Day 4, late afternoon. Carr reaches the edge of the German airfield. He's crouched in a tree line overlooking the eastern perimeter. Through branches, he sees hangars, fuel trucks, parked aircraft, mostly Bf-109s. He plans to wait until morning, then walk to the gate, hands up. But as the light dies, Carr notices something different. A revetment, roughly 80 yards from his position. Inside, partly hidden under camouflage netting, sits a Focke-Wulf Fw 190. 2 German mechanics work beneath portable lights. Carr watches them check fuel tanks full. They run the engine. The BMW radial snarls awake. They cycle the prop, check magnetos, run what looks like a full pre-flight. Then they shut it down, cover the cockpit, and walk back toward the hangars. The Fw 190 is ready. Carr's mind starts calculating. He has never flown a German aircraft. He can't read German. He doesn't know where the controls are, how the engine starts, how the gear works, yet he knows how to fly. He has more than 500 combat hours. Every airplane still has a throttle, a stick, and rudder pedals. Physics doesn't care what language the labels are written in, and this one is fueled, unguarded, and waiting. The surrender plan dies right there. Carr waits until 3:00 a.m. The field is quiet, thin night watch. Minimal movement near the revetment. He moves. 80 yards of open ground. No cover. If anyone looks his way, he's finished. He crosses in about 40 seconds, low and fast, ankle screaming. Up close, the Fw 190 is bigger than he expected. Wingspan about 34 feet, length around 29 feet, empty weight roughly 7,000 pounds, almost a ton heavier than the P-51. The cockpit sits high behind armored glass. The BMW 801 dominates the nose, a 14-cylinder air-cooled radial making about 1,700 horsepower. The Focke-Wulf is Germany's premier fighter. First deployed in 1941, it outclassed early Spitfires so badly the British rushed new variants to compete. German pilots called it the Butcher Bird. Allies called it Trouble. The aircraft Carr is climbing into is likely an A-8, the common late 1944 model. 2 13mm guns in the cowling, 4 20mm cannons in the wings. Deadly in experienced hands. Carr is not experienced in this cockpit. He steps onto the wing. The canopy is unlocked. He slides it back and drops inside. First problem, he can't read a single label. Every switch and dial is German, script. Second problem, the cockpit is tighter than the Mustang. His knees press the panel, but the stick sits naturally in his right hand. The throttle is on the left, same as home. Some things are universal. Carr has about 4 hours until sunrise. He uses every minute. He traces wires, matches gauges by layout. Airspeed usually top left. Altimeter near top center. Engine cluster to the right. He finds fuel selector. Magnetos, prop control. Now, the critical piece, the starter. In the Mustang, it's electric. Here, unknown. On the right side, he finds a T-shaped handle with German text that looks like starter. He pulls nothing. Pushes suddenly, a mechanical whine fills the cockpit. an inertia starter winding up like a toy. He lets it spin 10 seconds, 20. Then he pulls. The BMW coughs, catches, and detonates into life. The sound is apocalyptic, 1,700 horsepower even at idle. Every German on the airfield will hear it. Carr has seconds. No time to locate the runway, no brake check, no flap test, no radio. He slams the throttle forward. The FW-190 surges. The tail rises almost immediately, nose heavy, eager. In the pre-dawn gloom, he aims between two hangars. Ground crew spill out, shouting, pointing. 60, 70, the hangars rush up. At 90, Carr pulls back. The aircraft leaps free, clearing roofs by what feels like inches. He is airborne 200 meters behind enemy lines in a stolen German fighter. Now comes the hard part. The cockpit is a maze of unfamiliar systems, so Carr solves one problem at a time. Landing gear. He finds a lever on the left console, yanks it. A solid think gear retracting. Direction. He identifies the compass and orients west-southwest toward France, toward Allied lines. Altitude. He climbs to 500 feet, then rethinks it. Up high, German radar sees him. Fighters see him. Anti-aircraft tracks him. So he drops treetop level. About 50 feet above the ground at roughly 280 miles per hour. The forest becomes a green blur. One mistake, and he'll cartwheel into trees at 300 miles an hour. But down here, he's nearly invisible to radar, too low for flak, too fast for rifles. Fuel shows full. Range is about 500 miles. France is roughly 200 miles away. He has margin. For around 45 minutes, Carr drives west. Sunrise blooms behind him. Forest gives way to farmland, then to scarred eastern France. He crosses the front line, and that's when the nightmare flips. Allied gunners see what they expect. A German FW-190 screaming low toward Allied positions. They open up. 50 cal tracers stitch the air toward him from every direction. He has no radio to explain, no signal. The aircraft still wears black crosses and a swastika. So Carr does the only thing he can: go lower, go faster. He drops to about 20 feet, hedge hopping. Prop wash kicks dust off roads. Civilians dive into ditches. American soldiers fire rifles. Upward. Carr later estimates every 50 cal machine gun in existence took shots at him during that sprint. The FW-190 takes hit. She hears the impacts, feels the shudder, but German engineering holds. The aircraft stays together. Then he recognizes the field, A-66, near Comté, France, home of the 354th Fighter Group. He lines up. No pattern work, no radio call. Anti-aircraft crews are already tracking him. And then he discovers the final problem. The landing gear won't come down. Carr pulls the lever, nothing. Pumps it, nothing. He searches for a backup release, an emergency system, anything. The gear is hydraulic. There's a selector valve. Carr doesn't know that. He doesn't know he's been working the wrong handle. Below him, his own field crews begin loading 40mm guns. A German fighter is circling their base. They're preparing to erase it. Carr decides, bellyland. He lines up with grass beside the runway, lowers flaps at least, that lever he found, and chops throttle. The FW-190 sinks. 100 feet, 50, 20. It hits the grass at about 90, skids 300 yards, throws a rooster tail of mud and debris, and grinds to a stop. Carr is alive. Within seconds, the fighter is surrounded military police with rifles raised, screaming at the pilot to exit. They expect a German. They expect a prisoner. The canopy slides back. A mud-splattered American in a torn flight suit climbs onto the wing. "I'm Captain Carr of this goddamn squadron." No one believes him. He's been missing 4 days. He's supposed to be dead or captured, and he just belly-slid a German fighter onto their field. The rifles stay trained until a staff car arrives. Colonel George Bicknell, commanding the group, steps out and looks at the wrecked FW-190, the mud-covered pilot, the stunned MPs. He says, "Where in the hell have you been, and what have you been doing now?" The story spreads like wildfire. The man who took off in a P-51 and came back in an FW-190, the only American in the European theater to do it. But Carr's war isn't finished. 5 months later, April 2nd, 1945, near Schweinfurt, Germany. First Lieutenant Carr leads 4 P-51s on reconnaissance at about 15,000 feet. He spots movement above. German fighters, more than he can quickly count, stacked from 18,000 to 25,000 feet. Carr estimates 60 aircraft or more, Bf-109s and FW-190s mixed. He has 4 Mustangs. Standard tactics say, disengage and report. 4 versus 60 is suicide. The Germans have altitude, numbers, position. Every manual ever printed says, "Get out alive." Bruce Carr has never been particularly loyal to manuals. He keys the radio, engaging. His wingmen don't hesitate. They've flown with him. They know what engaging means when it comes from Carr. The 4 Mustangs climb straight into the formation. The Germans don't expect it. They're loose, defensive, probably conserving fuel for a bomber stream. An attack makes no sense, so it buys Carr confusion. He slips into the rear, centers a Bf-109, and fires. The German never sees him. The 109 erupts. Carr snaps to another targeting FW-190 3 seconds of 50 cal fire. The Focke-Wulf rolls inverted and falls. Now the German formation fractures. They don't know how many Americans are hitting them. They don't know where the fire is coming from. Carr moves through them like a predator through a herd pick. Fire, break, disappear. 3rd kill, 4th, 5th. In about 3 minutes, Bruce Carr shoots down 5 German aircraft. His wingmen account for 10 more. 4 Americans destroy 15 German fighters without losing a single Mustang. When ammo runs dry, Carr brings them home. The survivors scatter. April 9th, 1945. Carr is promoted to captain. He receives the Distinguished Service Cross for April CC, second only to the Medal of Honor. He becomes the last ace in a day in the European theater. By war's end, he's flown about 172 combat missions and totals around 14 or 15 aerial victories, depending on the record, plus ground kills. He's 21. The war ends. Carr stays in uniform. He joins the Acro Jets, America's first jet aerobatic demonstration team, flying F-80 Shooting Stars. Then Korea 57 combat missions in F-86 Sabres with the 336th Fighter Interceptor Squadron. He commands the squadron from 1955 to 1956. Then Vietnam. Colonel Carr, now 44, flies 286 combat missions in F-100 Super Sabres close air support. Bombing runs, strafing. The same kind of work, across a different war, inside a different generation of aircraft. 3 wars, 3 generations, over 500 combat missions total. He retires in 1973. April 25, 1998, St. Cloud, Florida. Bruce Ward Carr dies of prostate cancer at 74. He's buried at Arlington National Cemetery, Section 64, grave 6922, among American war heroes within sight of the tomb of the unknown soldier. Across the river from the Lincoln Memorial, his headstone lists, Colonel, United States Air Force. It lists awards: Distinguished Service Cross, Silver Star, Legion of Merit, Distinguished Flying Cross with Clusters, Air Medal with Clusters, Purple Heart. It lists wars: World War II, Korea, Vietnam. It does not mention the Focke-Wulf. It does not mention the 4 days in the Czechoslovak forest. It does not mention the gear-up belly landing, the rifles in his face, or the colonel asking where the hell he'd been. Some stories don't fit on stone. There are 2 ways to tell Bruce Carr's story. One is the legend. The downed pilot who stole a German fighter from a working airfield figured it out by instinct and flew 200 miles back, while every gun in Europe tried to kill him. The other is the documented record. The ace, the Silver Star man, the Distinguished Service Cross winner. The pilot who led 4 against 60 and came back with 15 enemy aircraft destroyed. Both are true. But here's what matters. In November 1944, an American pilot found himself alone, unarmed, and stranded 200 meters behind enemy lines. The rational choice was surrender. The safe choice was giving up. Bruce Carr chose differently. He looked at an unfamiliar German fighter filled with unreadable labels and saw not an obstacle, but a way out. He climbed into a cockpit he'd never seen, started an engine he'd never operated, and flew an aircraft he'd never touched, not because he was reckless, but because he refused to accept that his options were limited to what seemed possible. 4 months later, staring up at 60 enemy fighters with only 4 friends, beside him, the rational choice was retreat. The safe choice was survival. He chose attack. That's the Bruce Carr story. Not the stolen fighter, not the kill totals, not 3 wars across 3 generations, just a man who looked at impossible odds and asked a simple question: what else can I do? Most men live inside the options they're given. Bruce Carr lived inside the options he could create. And that's why his story still feels unreal, because it isn't about luck or even skill. It's about a mindset that refuses to accept the boundaries everyone else agrees to. When the cockpit is unfamiliar, when the numbers say you're finished, when the safe choice is surrender, Carr's question remains, echoing across decades of air and fire: what else can I do?